Welcome back, future production manager. Hope you make the cut. So we're going to go over a brief job description and proposal about what an office production manager does day in, day out. Okay, guys, this is kind of a template as we hired production managers over the years. Your office may certainly have additional responsibilities. They may have different ones. But go ahead and press pause, and you can download this general outline of what an office production manager does on a day in and day out basis. It's in the SVG U File Vault. All right, let's go ahead and read that initial description. The office production manager's mission is to coordinate the on-time and on-budget completion of builds according to the initial job files and any changes or addendums made during the time the job is open. We call those change orders. The production manager does this by updating job files and records within and thoroughly, timely, and accurate communication with both the sales associates, the customers, accounts receivable, and oftentimes your quality control inspectors in the field. This also includes close coordination with crews, subcontractors, and other vendors and suppliers. All right, let's go over some of those position responsibilities. Number one, obviously we want to drop materials and start builds. We'd like to within 14 days of an incoming job file. That's a heck of a goal. I know it's not always going to happen. In some post-storm environments, it's not possible to start that job within 14 days because you're waiting on supplier issues and whatever else. So you can go ahead and adjust that accordingly. But set some kind of target, a general target that your production department will actually start, drop, and build a job so that we have a goal to achieve. Okay. Two, you're going to request material quotes from suppliers. When you send in your roof order sheet or any kind of order sheet to a supplier ordering materials, always try to get that order, we call it an order acknowledgement form, back so that you can check it against your pre-cap or what you expected to pay so that you're sure that you're not overpaying for supplies, and then put that in the job file. Three, the office production manager is going to negotiate pricing with suppliers. Maybe you don't like what came back from pricing. Maybe you're doing a lot of volume with the supplier. So you sit down and talk to that regional or that national manager of ABC or Beacon Supply and say, hey, look, if we do this much volume, we want a 2 or 3% or a 4% discount at the end of the year. So part of the office production manager's job is to also negotiate, discounts and rebates with suppliers, as well as possibly with subcontractors and other vendors. Number four, update and run a pre-cap to be managed by both the production manager and the accounts receivable department. Look, if you're not using a pre-cap, SVG has a pre-cap program. In fact, in a later course, you'll learn how to pre-cap a job. You should know down to a box of nails what your profitability is as a production manager that's building jobs before you start the job. So if you don't know what a pre-cap is or a running pre-cap, go ahead and watch that in a later chapter and you'll learn how that's set up. SVG has Excel sheet pre-caps you can use. You can always call our office if you need some help there. Some people have their own pre-caps that they do by hand, but you should always do a guesstimate or estimate down to a box of nails so you know that profit margin before you start the job. Number five, schedule and building material delivery, dumpster delivery, and crews for building start dates. Okay, so the office production manager is going to be the one coordinating the drops, talking to suppliers, call Mrs. Smith before it's dropped, make sure she knows got materials in the driveway, coordinating the crew so they show up 24 hours within that material drop. Last thing a homeowner wants is materials in their driveway for 2 weeks before a crew shows up. So all that kind of stuff requires a lot of phone calls, coordination. You're going to be like an octopus with 8 arms and 8 phones to coordinate all this work. Just kidding, but not really. Sometimes, some days you'll feel like that. Number 6, group jobs geographically for best efficiency for both your QCs in the field and your subs. So what does that mean? Look, in a post-storm environment, some of you guys might be selling retail, but in a post-storm environment, a lot of times your jobs are coming in and they're in specific areas where that salesman's selling, like in a certain gated community or a certain zip code. Try to look through those job files and make it easier on the supplier and crews. Sometimes you can schedule drops and a crew could literally go back to each job site in the same vicinity and area instead of driving obviously 3-4 hours away in different directions. 7, you're gonna, office production manager be scheduling all trades. So when you look in that job file or looking at CRM, make sure you're aware of what trades that salesperson and that owner wrote in. Are you doing the gutters? Are you doing the screens? Are you doing the roof? What is that homeowner expecting? Always call that homeowner, that property owner, that Mrs. Smith, and talk about what's in their contract. Just don't assume what that sales associate wrote down is correct. Look at that scope of work, call that homeowner, let them know you got their job file. You'd like to take a few minutes and go over their contract and know exactly what they're expecting, and then you're confirming everything on that scope of work that sales associate wrote in. I've seen many companies and many production managers fail in this one area by not confirming what's in contract with that customer before proceeding with work. Very, very important to reduce future liability. Number 8, notify by email or phone call homeowner sales rep QC. Okay, so we just talked about notifying, obviously calling the customer, keeping in close ranks with the customer. But don't forget about the sales associate and don't forget about the QC. When we were really busy, what the office production manager would oftentimes do is send out an email of all the builds scheduled that week to all the sales associates and the quality control inspectors in the field so they knew the build schedule that was going on. In fact, a lot of times, your sales manager or field trainer should be scheduling blitzes around that build or that material drop. That's a great place to sell. But either way, they would all know what the build schedule was so that they could prepare to go out there, be in front of their jobs. The QCs know what's being dropped. That's a simple email, maybe on Monday mornings, of everything that's being built or dropped that week, so everyone's aware of the build schedule. And of course, the homeowner you're going to keep in a loop as well. Number 9, my favorite subject, hiring and recruiting subcontractors and verifying, key point is verifying their references, their insurance, who they are, where they come from, do they have the proper license, insurance, all that kind of stuff. Guys, one of the biggest liabilities contractors go out of business for each year is shoddy work and poor workmanship by subcontractors where an office production manager didn't verify who they were, what their credentials were, and did they have the proper insurance. One of the most important functions of that office production manager, of what you do, is hiring quality subs to get this work done. Number 10, scheduling your field QC. By the way, when I say QC, that's a field quality control inspector, or some people call it a field project manager. That's a person, usually on weekly pay or salary, not a sales associate, that's out there making sure Mrs. Smith's happy. They're passing city inspections. They're managing material drops and subs and making sure all the builds go correctly. They're your eyes and ears in the field. You're going to want to have a QC or a team of QCs in the field. Your job is to make sure they're in the right place at the right time where those builds are. Number 11, resolve problem repair issues. Problem repairs hold up money. Usually, it's that dented gutter, that nail in a driveway, or that cracked window from the roofer that's holding up a $10,000 or $20,000 check later on. So your job as that production manager is to put a quality control inspection system in place, a calling system in place, really after each trade. Roof's done, call the customer. Siding's done, call the customer. Window screens are done, call the customer. Make sure the job's done, customer's happy, so you're not dealing with a bunch of problem repairs later on, hold up final check balances. 13, the office production manager will also lead and organize pre-construction meetings for commercial and large residential builds. So look, ultimately you want your quality control guy in the field. Heck, the owner might be out, or the lead sales associate might be part of these meetings too. But if you see a complicated job, ring the bell. You see a big job coming up, big flat roof, big monster cedar shake, asbestos, and you feel you really want to have eyes on, call for a pre-construction meeting. That's your job as the office production manager. Set up a time, may possibly have the owner out there of the facility or the manager. Have your QC out there, your sales associate, any pertinent subs. It'll save you a lot of problems later on. 14, we talked about this before, I'll say it again. Contact that property owner at the end of each trade to ensure satisfaction prior to moving forward with additional trades. What does that mean? But when that roof's done, you want to make sure you at least call that customer, are you happy? Before you start siding, gutters, everything else, make sure that trade's complete and the customer's happy. If you do that through the entire production cycle, I know it's a lot of calls. Heck, if you're real busy, you'll probably have to hire an assistant to make all these calls. But those calls will save you oodles of problems later on and result in faster collections. 15, the other responsibility of an office production manager is to verify that subcontractor pay requests are correct. They're going to turn these in possibly at your company on a weekly basis. You might have charge hold slips where roofers caused a cracked driveway or a leak or problems where money has to be held back from their pay on Friday. Okay, but it's your job as the office production manager to monitor and make sure those pay requests are right. You're checking those pay requests against the pre-cap of the job to make sure the crew's not overcharging you and to make sure appropriate monies are held from that crew before payroll goes out next Friday or whenever your payroll cycle is. 16, with that said, if you are using a pre-cap system, all your labor and material bills should be checked against the pre-cap to make sure that they're correct, which will allow you to quickly sign off on them. Now, I know in your office, your AP manager or your owner may also be signing off on these things, but if you step up and help in that process, it's good to have another sign off, another set of eyes on all labor and material bills so we don't result in overpaying our labor or our suppliers. 18, my favorite, work closely with those sales associates during builds. Look, You're going to have possibly 5, 10, 15, some of you guys might have 20, 25 different sales associates turning in different job files. And unfortunately, it's your job to make sure that those files, those job files, are built correctly. And the best way to do that is be in constant communication with that sales associate. Hey, we need to sit down and look at your job files, man. It's chicken scratch. I can't even read them. And then obviously you're the last line of defense of that office production manager. So you need to be the one calling that property owner and verifying what Sammy, Susie, Harry actually wrote in that contract and make sure that that scope of work's correct before you start the job. 19, when that job is complete, the office production manager job is to ensure 100% customer satisfaction. Using your sales associates, using your QCs, but ultimately it's your job. You need to call that homeowner and ensure that that work was done to their satisfaction. Once you verify that job is complete, it's an extremely important date to put into a master spreadsheet, to put into your CRM, to send your invoice out, because this is the day your lien clock starts in most states. In most states, you have 90 days to file a lien, or you don't have any lien rights. But definitely want to trigger that invoice, that AR manager, that sales. Hopefully you have an AR manager on staff that's sending that invoice, which is a documented date of last trade complete, because that's when your lien clock starts. You as the office production manager need to be cognizant of that last trade complete date and make sure everyone in that office down to the sales associate is aware when last trade complete is done. All right, guys, moving right along. Let's talk about some more details of what that office production manager does. Number one, must read scope of work, verify the scope of work, and clearly understand what work is being done on each job. Look, guys, if there's any questions regarding that scope of work, call the sales associate and call the customer. It's your job as an office production manager to make sure you have a clear understanding of what to be done on that job. Number two, within 24 hours of receiving a job file, the production manager should call that property owner, letting them know that their job file has been received in the production department. During this phone call, the production manager should set expectations with the property owner to review the scope of work and make sure it is accurate and discuss a start date that's convenient for the homeowner and that's actually conducive to your schedule. Heck, you might be 4 to 6 weeks out. But making that call, guys, is very important. You think about a sales guy. They're out there, they probably sat on the job file for 3 weeks, knowing most sales associates, back of their car, collected a check, sitting in their car, whatever, driving around. By the time they turn it into your office, I'm sure your accounting department has deposited that check. Maybe that's another 3 or 4 days, 5 days. Maybe it's sitting in a stack of job files, so add another week or two. It could have been 5 weeks, 4 or 5 weeks, since that salesman collected a check, and they haven't heard from anybody at the company. Very important that you as the office production manager makes, as soon as you get that job file the first time, make that call. Say, hey, I got your job file. I got your contract here and these documents. Do you have a few minutes to go over your scope of work? Very important that you make that call so they know the job file was received, and then a different human, other than the sales associate, has now called them from the company and let them know that they're putting it in the schedule. So looking at that scope of work, guys, a lot of you guys are doing roof, siding, gutters, roof, paint, screens, interior. So your job as the office production manager is obviously to coordinate those trades. And I know it's not perfect, but if you get one trade scheduled within 1 week of the other trade finishing, I know it's going to be tough to do when you got 100 jobs and you got different subcontractors with different schedules. But you want to try to stack those trades and coordinate so that there's a flow of work and you're not waiting 2 months, after the roof's done to get the copper gutters done. So one of your jobs, when you review that job file, if there's some ordering to do on specialty items like copper gutters, screens, paint, scheduling, do all that scheduling when you do your initial job file review so that you can try to stack those trades so you're coordinating them in some fashion. Obviously the roof's first in most cases, right? Roof, siding, gutters last, or roof, siding, paint the deck would be last, that kind of thing. So there's some common sense into coordinating these trades. But that's one of the juggling acts of the office production manager, guys, is coordinating those trades so there's a flow of work and we're not waiting months and months between each trade, dragging out the build cycle and ultimately the collection cycle of the job. Number 4, guys, production manager must call that property owner a few days before the materials are being dropped in the driveway. Worst thing to do is to drop materials in a driveway, blocking someone's driveway, which has happened in the past, and nobody's called the property owner. So very important, you have that initial call with that property owner when you first got that job file. Maybe you spent 2 or 3 weeks in the queue ordering their job. Another call has to be placed to that property owner, letting them know when those materials are going to be dropped. And I would highly advise to try to coordinate a crew to start that job within 24 to 48 hours, never more than 72 hours after the material drop. The worst thing to do is have material sitting in the driveway for 4, 5, 6 weeks and that would make a homeowner very angry. So we want to coordinate that material drop very closely with when we intend to have that crew show up within 24 to 48 hours of the material drop itself. Number 6, again, guys, after each trade is complete, the office production manager must call the property owner, make sure they're happy and that the work is complete. How the heck are you going to pay a sub bill if you don't know the work's actually complete just because they turned in the invoice? Somebody's got to go check the work. I know some of you guys might not have a field QC. Maybe you're using a sales associate. Maybe the sales associate's not around, but at least call the customer and verify work's complete. If you do have a quality control inspector in a field, you, the office production manager, should be mobilizing and scheduling that QC to show up and do an inspection and make sure the work's complete and have that interface with the customer if possible. Production manager must confirm homeowner is satisfied after the QC submits their final inspection report. If there's any punch-out work to be done, any damage to the property, this stuff must be scheduled within 24 hours of receiving that punch-out report so that we can effectively schedule those problem repairs, because those are going to hold up money and we want to get that job collected. And again, ultimately, those kind of things are the job of the office production manager. Speaking of those quality control and runners, guys, look, some of you guys might not have quality control inspectors or field soups yet. Some of you might not even have runners. Maybe you're doing it as the office production manager. But when you do have them, when you do have that team in place in the production department, it's your job as that lead office production manager to possibly hold one, maybe it's not every day, but 3 days a week, an early morning meeting. Remember, you guys got to get in there at 6 a.m. Some of you guys get in there at 5:30. An early morning meeting with those QCs, with those runners, whoever's on your production team, possibly even a couple lead sub crew chiefs. What are the priorities of work that day? What fires do we have to put out? What jobs do we have to build? Just having a meeting like that 3 days a week can really help clean up some of the chaos and get everybody on the right set of priorities. It's your job as an office production manager to control the field and to set the priorities of work. And I'll tell you, having that morning meeting, even if it's only 3 days a week, throw some coffee and bagels up, bring in a couple sub crew chiefs that are handling a lot of your volume, and get the priorities of work set out can really help alleviate a lot of problems in the field and get through a lot of production cycles, a lot of slow production cycles, and speed them up. All right, guys, check out number 4. Another good idea is you need to check your QC's work and make sure they're inspecting jobs properly. Don't just assume that a field QC out there is doing their jobs properly. Maybe they're not even inspecting them and they're just filling out reports. I've had that happen a few times. So you should try to make it a goal as the office production manager. I know it's busy in there. I know you're not going to want to go out in the field if you're real busy. To check 2 jobs a week, don't tell your QC you're checking them. 2 QC reports they filled out or 2 jobs they said are finished and are done. You go out and double check their work to make sure they're doing their jobs correctly. That's a sign of a great office production manager. All right, moving right along, future office production manager. Let's talk about subs and sub bids and safety. Number 1, for any specialty roofs outside your typical, whatever kind of roofs you typically do, like asphalt shingles where you have your typical crews. If you have any specialty roofs like foam, TPO, or something you don't normally do, make it a protocol to always get 2 sub bids per specialty roof so that you know you're not overpaying. Number 2, the office production manager is also responsible for coordinating 1 subcontractor meeting per month to discuss any OSHA safety rules, regulations, changes in pay, problems that keep happening with crews, customer complaints. I would recommend once a month, bring all your sub crew chiefs in, throw in a barbecue, make it fun, and this will really increase the camaraderie and the teamwork of your crews, but also let them know of stuff that, ongoing issues, problem repairs, things you can clean up. Your field quality control inspector should also be part of this meeting to make sure they're interfacing and meeting with the crews as well. 3, a production manager should always be adding to the subcontractor network. What does that mean? Look, you as the office production manager should be always on the lookout for that next roofing crew to add to your list. You guys are going to go through crews. I mean, your best crew right now may mess a job up next month and you have to fire them. And if you don't have a subcontractor crew or a B-level or C-level crew to take what I call your A-level crew's place, they're going to hold you hostage. Or you're going to have to keep doing work and hiring the same subcontractor that's doing shoddy work. So as an office production manager, your job is to always be refilling the bucket, just like a sales manager is with sales associates, with potential new subcontractors. You may not have any windows yet, or screens, or gutters. Maybe those aren't coming until later, 3 months down the road. The idea is to mobilize that subcontractor network now so you're not looking for them later on when you actually need them within 24 hours, but to build that subcontractor network on. And it's an ongoing process. You're always evaluating and hiring new subs. You should be controlling that as the office production manager to make sure you always have ample subs and you're able to fire or terminate the ones that are doing bad work and not be held hostage by those. Number 4, we already talked about this once, guys, but let me reiterate it. It's the office production manager's job to check the background of those subcontractors before they start work. BBB, past references, proper licensure. Some of them don't have licenses and aren't required. I get it, but they should always have GL insurance. Check their GL insurance. Make sure their GL insurance is accurate and not a fake. But it's your job as the office production manager to do that and possibly call 2 or 3 references each. Number 5, dealing with subcontractors, miscellaneous trade work. We always hate that miscellaneous trade work that we have to do to complete the project. Those copper dormers, those screens, that 40 linear feet of gutters and whatnot. Look, make it a policy as an office production manager, anything over $5K in miscellaneous trade work, like 2 copper dormers, it's probably $7,000, $8,000, $9,000, right? The production manager should make it a protocol to get 2 bids on any specialty miscellaneous trades work that's over $5,000. Number 6, we talked about this before, guys. The pre-cap, always checking labor and material bills against the pre-cap to make sure you're not overpaying. That's ultimately the office production manager's job, is to control that profit margin on labor and subcontractors. And the only way to do that is when you get that stack of labor bills and supplier bills, you sit down, you check it against the pre-cap. That's your job to maintain those healthy profit margins. All right, guys, that's a lot of information about the office production manager position. The office you're working in might have more things, might have less things than what we just went over. That's a very detailed description of some of the daily activities of an office production manager. You'll find some later courses in here under production that we recommend production managers watch that are going to help you deal with and solve a lot of the issues you heard about in this overview. See you soon.